if they do follow my advice, they're not going to be dead. I mean, Joe Aesthetics, Leo Longevity, any of these people, like I help them as much as I can, but then there's certain risks that they want to take that I don't approve of. And those are the risks that end up killing them, not anything I helped them with. And then you can become a superhuman mental athlete, develop your brain and become a genius in a short period of time. And then you can go and become a spiritual master with greater spiritual power than 99.999% of people in human history. And Leo Longevity was living with me, and he was explaining about what a significant amount of brain damage I likely suffered from COVID.
Can you explain to me a little bit about his death?
He died in my house, and I found him days after he had passed away, maybe 3 days later, because after a certain period of time not hearing from him, I thought he just took a day trip with a girl or something. I was a loner, but I was friends with everybody. But I didn't have a clique. Like everybody in school, you could say that person's part of that clique. That person's a football player. That person's a rapper. That person's a rocker. But if they looked at me, they'd be like, that person's yeah, most importantly, that women are completely different than men. You can't talk about this stuff. Andrew Tate talks about it, but look what happened to him. Other people are extremely against it. And yeah, I seem to offend both.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's humans that are born as boys who become girls who look so much like girls that you can't tell the difference. Arrogant Western woman who thinks she knows better than me and she doesn't, and then have to battle her at every step of the way.
Today, I'm with a very special guest. And before I welcome him in, I would like to share a story. I don't think he knows this story. However, when I first started the podcast, before I was starting it, I was considering who can I ask in my close network who has like good influence and is well known and yeah, would just be a great guest. And he was one of them, along with my other very close friend and mentor. However, I didn't pluck up the courage to ask either of them until I asked this guy here probably about a month ago. So it took me about 2-3 months to pluck up the courage to even ask him. And like, I know these two. Unfortunately, the second guy that I'm talking about, AJ, is no longer with us. So what I'm getting at is I didn't have the urgency to act fast enough to get him on the podcast. What I'm trying to say is like act with urgency and don't wait for things to land on your doorstep. If you have something, a dream, an idea you're going for, go for it, shoot, because you don't know how long you or anyone around you has left. So make the most out of the people you're connected with and your own time.
Yeah, that's some good lessons in there.
Yeah.
A lot of people set goals, but maybe they don't set the timeline and they don't backtrack what they have to do each period of time in order to get to that goal. And so the goal never happens because they never feel that urgency.
Exactly.
So it's like you got to break it in chunks and do it faster
and
to actually reach your goal. Yeah.
Like him passing away has just injected me with like urgency. Like I said at the start of the year, I'm going to live this year like it's the last year I've got. Do you know what I mean? And like,
yeah, it's like anytime you could die and then it's game over. You lost all your opportunities.
When like doubt starts feeding or a weak like fear comes into my brain, I think go back to the thing that I said at the start of the year. I'm going to act with urgency, and I remind myself about like people that have passed away around me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So instead of like holding on to their memories and like in a low vibrational state, just appreciating the time that you had with them and live life more.
Yeah.
For them.
I mean, I try to teach this to my girlfriends, you know, the sense of urgency. They're like, why do you come in 10 minutes? I'm like, because I got things to do. And they're like, but we should spend an hour. And, you know, what about me? Shouldn't I finish? And I say, hey, everybody's responsible for their own orgasm. I'm on a timeline here. If you want to have an orgasm in a period of time, then you need to learn your body and give yourself an orgasm. I give all the material. The material's there. It's just if
Mm.
it takes her 15 minutes, but I've only got 10 minutes, she needs to learn how to expedite it for herself.
Yeah, I have to share that with one of my previous girlfriends. Like, I take some responsibility, but then I said, like, well, you're not trying. It doesn't seem like you're playing with yourself, sort of thing. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, help me out, please. Come on. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm stressing. It's like a problem. Like, do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I want you to get off as much as me. Like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel like I'm doing the job. Do you know what I mean? So
it's like one of those old records that spin around, you know, and you put the hand on and then it just goes. You just take their hand, put it on themselves. They keep going, and then it slides off. You take their hand, put it back, it slides off, and eventually it'll become a habit. Their hand will be there, and they'll take care of themselves.
Basically, I look at it as it's a team effort. It's a team effort. You can't just say, right, I haven't came. It's all your fault. Like, do you know what I mean? It's a team effort. Yes. And on that note, welcome, Tony. Thank you for being here. God bless you, man.
Yeah.
So, Tony, share with the world what you do.
I'm an underground biohacker. I experiment on myself with mostly chemical biohacking. There's a lot of different types of biohacking.
Yes.
I use chemistry, and the name chemistry may be intimidating, but we're talking about a better way to call them would be miracle molecules, supplements that the public doesn't know about yet. I experiment on them at the time that they're more risky, that people think, oh, this is too risky. I'll wait 10 years before I try it. I'm usually the first to try all of these different molecules on myself and people that allow me to experiment on them outside of America. You know,
yeah. So
I live outside of America, so I do human experiments outside of America.
So you couldn't do that in the USA?
You got to be really careful what you talk about as far as experimenting on humans in America. I mean, it's very frowned upon because there's a huge body of people that think that any chemistry that's not FDA approved or used in normal mainstream is bad and dangerous, and it's going to kill someone. And if you look up my most hateful comments, a lot of them are like, I'm reckless. I'm going to get someone killed. I'm going to get myself killed. Every day they predict Tony Huge is going to die tomorrow. And I start out by saying, Tony Huge here, still not dead yet. Yeah.
And then also maybe point the finger at you if or when people pass away around you, or?
So, yeah, sometimes not to a huge extent, but yeah, I think the biggest criticism would be like, hey, if this person's a friend of Tony Huge and Tony Huge has access to all the miracle molecules, why aren't they bulletproof? Why aren't they living forever? What went wrong? And in almost all of those situations, it's actually where someone didn't follow my advice and then they ended up dead. If they do follow my advice, they're not going to be dead. I mean, Joe Aesthetics, Leo Longevity, any of these people, like I help them as much as I can, but then there's certain risks that they want to take that I don't approve of. And those are the risks that end up killing them, not anything I helped them with.
Okay. Can you go any deeper into that and be more specific?
Without violating these people's privacy as far as their specific protocols, the vaccine would be one, for example. I told everybody not to get it. And I was one of the first people saying that very early on, and I got completely censored for it. I got wiped off all of the platforms for just telling the truth, just asking questions. Nothing I said was scientifically untrue. Everything that I said has been proven to be true now, but it's not gonna mean I get my hundreds of thousands of subscribers on YouTube back or Instagram or Facebook. It's all gone. I'm all censored for it. But at the time, I'm telling everybody, don't get the vaccines. Let's gather more information first, and not from studies funded by the pharmaceutical companies. Can't trust those. So let's wait till actually some actual independent third-party testing, which nobody did at that time. And also, as soon as people started getting injuries from it, then that got censored. And I was a conduit of all these people getting injuries from the vaccines. And so I was just relaying what I was actually seeing. And then that got censored as well. And then I talked about the other alternatives to cure it, which all of it worked, which all of it proved to work. So this is just one example. At that time, I was really shocked that even though I gave so many people this advice, they still got the vaccine. And a lot of them are dead now. And it's all based, it's all heart disease, blood clots, aneurysm. sudden death from cardiovascular events from blocked arteries from clotting is what the vaccine was causing.
Yeah.
And that's how they died.
What information do you know about our good friend AJ, Steph?
Well,
That I spoke about
he
at
had
the start.
pneumonia. Supposedly there was a virus going around in Bangkok at the
Okay.
time, like a bird flu type virus. A lot of these respiratory viruses, because when they cause so much inflammation in the lungs, and then the lungs fill with liquid, and then your whole body goes toxic, and bacteria from the lungs get to the rest of the body. So this is a common way people die, actually, when they're older, especially like 80-year-old people. Nobody dies for just nothing. There's always some cause. And a very common cause is respiratory issues as they get older, because they get pneumonia and their body's not strong enough, or they use Western medicine to try to treat it instead of more effective things, and it makes it worse. So in AJ's situation, he had a type of pneumonia. He had some kind of infection going back weeks before he actually died,
So
but
he
it
had
was
some
mild.
symptoms.
He was telling his girlfriend that is just like a little bit hard breathing, asthma, like a little bit of pain in the chest type thing. And then finally she called him the night he passed away and said, "How are you doing today? You doing better?" And he's like, "I'm doing much worse. I'm so dizzy. I can't go up the stairs. I need help getting to the hospital." And he went to the hospital, but at that time he already had too much bacteria, too much electrolyte imbalance. So his kidneys and his heart were not performing properly. And it was resulting though from respiratory illness.
Okay.
And it was like very gradual, and then all of a sudden very sudden.
Okay. While we're on the subject, a close friend of mine spoke to his friend a few days before he passed away, a few weeks ago. And he said like he was getting palpitations. And then a couple of days later, he went to the dentist, come back, had his wisdom teeth out, and then his friend phoned like the real estate people to say, "I can't get through to him." Went to his apartment and he was gone. They found loads of steroids in his apartment.
Oh, he was on steroids, yeah. But he's on a very low dosage like TRT. He's not blasting a lot of steroids. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's all the information I have.
No, but that's a good point, because as soon as someone hears steroids, they say, "Oh, he died from steroids."
Yeah.
Steroids don't cause respiratory illness. Steroids don't cause heart palpitations. Steroids actually don't affect the heart negatively, other than long-term heart growth, which is very minimal, to the same extent as like an athlete who, works their body really hard. So there's really not, actually, the coincidence today, the FDA just published that they were wrong about testosterone causing heart disease. Because it's actually the other way around. Testosterone deficiency causes heart disease. Too much testosterone, can cause some problems, but it's nowhere near as bad as not enough testosterone.
Okay.
So we can't blame testosterone for things like this.
So what would you put it down to if he's had his wisdom teeth out? Would you put it down to the dentist or?
Well, if you have some kind of bacterial infection, whenever you have a surgery, that is a surgery, and the people don't realize how much your dental health affects your whole health. If you have a bacterial infection in your dental area, it's going right into your bloodstream. It's feeding off of the food you eat, and your gum is everything in your mouth. And then it's just dumping that bacteria into your bloodstream, which could lead into sepsis if your body was very weak and not able to defeat it. So it's possible he had his wisdom tooth removed, and because I just had a tooth removed, and I know like food goes there and it's hard to brush around it, and it's just a vulnerability to infection. And so it's possible. I mean, also Joe Aesthetics died right after he had some dental work as well. And it's theorized that it was a blood clot, a combination of getting the vaccine and high blood pressure and having an aneurysm in his family history. And then the dental work also left him vulnerable. Yeah, because usually you don't take antibiotics for something like a wisdom tooth. And I didn't get antibiotics for my tooth getting pulled, but it is an event that could lead to bacteria growth and getting into your body. But his lungs was ultimately probably the cause, but the bacteria going around, ending up in the lungs, some contributing factors.
Yeah. So like you would only put like a case of death through steroids if it's like really high dosage.
I don't think anyone's ever died from steroids.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's possible you could overdose on oral steroids that are liver toxic, but even the liver, you have plenty of signs of jaundice, skin yellowing and fatigue and just feeling ill. And then you would get that fixed and you would fix your liver and you wouldn't do that again. So you have plenty of warning signs. I mean, how could steroids possibly cause death? It's like you have a certain amount of receptors in your body. You saturate those receptors and they're just signaling molecules. They're just signaling muscle to grow. I mean, in certain cases like hair loss, it's just blocking the hair follicle, but it's not like a significant, it doesn't really affect like your intestines. It doesn't really affect your heart other than mild heart growth. It doesn't cause heart palpitations, nothing like that.
What do you say to a lot of the like fitness influencers, Joe Doucette, people like that?
Greg Doucette.
Greg
Yeah.
Doucette.
Joe, you said Joe, because we keep saying Joe Aesthetics. Yeah.
Greg Doucette and X? Anyway, yeah. What do you say to the naysayers that totally would be looking at this and going, Tony, you're full of shit?
Well, the problem is that if you talk positively about steroids, true or not, larger platforms don't want that content going viral. But if you talk negatively about steroids, they want that content going viral. So the platforms are extremely biased into what they push to the audience. It's almost like a political issue. Like, what's happening in the politics in America. They're really pushing in favor of one side. They're really censoring and blocking and talking negative about the other side, like they own the media. Well, the narrative that steroids are bad pretty much owns the media. So if you actually surveyed all the steroid users and said, are you happy with your steroid use? Even 30 years later, 90% are going to say, yes, they're happy with it. However, now we're in 2025. Steroids have, I believe, like 80% benefit, 20% risk. I think it weighs in favor of using steroids for most people who are doing anything athletic. However, they do have risk. They aren't perfect molecules. They were designed in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s. There's not even any new steroids. They're not even developing really that many new steroids. Instead, they've completely switched over to selective androgen receptor modulators. So now we have these new synthetic steroids that are very carefully designed to have the benefits of steroids without the side effects. So even though I think steroids get a bad rap, they don't kill people, the side effects are not as bad as people think. Now in 2025, we still have technology. We now have technology that's so superior to steroids that it's pretty ignorant to use steroids. Like people who are on steroids now, if they care about their health, they should switch over to using selective androgen receptor modulators. And they'll live a lot longer and they'll have a lot less side effects or no side effects, or even be healthier than natural.
Got you. Okay. So there's one statement, one of your slogans that was one of the first slogans I seen and it hit me. Do you want to say it?
A day natural is a day wasted. Yeah.
Okay,
there's a lot of meaning behind it too.
Go
it's just
it.
one
Sell
phrase,
it me.
Well, you were talking originally about urgency, right?
Yes.
We're only on this earth for so long.
Yeah.
And you're trying to self-improve yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually. Well, you can do it through hard work, but it's going to take a long time. There are shortcuts to get us there faster. Hundreds, thousands of years ago, imagine for someone to develop a lot of skill with no technology, how much work they would have to put into it. And now look you've got gymnasts and, football players and all these athletes doing superhuman things that our ancestors can't even imagine doing because of the use of technology, all kinds of different technologies involved, even the shoes that they're wearing, the clothes that they're wearing, everything. The swimmers are wearing things that help them swim faster. The knowledge that they've learned about how to train for optimal performance. And that's like on the athletic side, but then there's on the mental side and the spiritual side too. And for each one of these broad categories of attributes, there's shortcuts. You can get to the top faster. And if you do it with just hard work, you might find that you don't actually become superhuman by the time you die. You ran out of time. But if you take these shortcuts, you become superhuman when you're 20, 30 years old, and then you can work on another attribute. You could become a superhuman athlete right now in a very short period of time by using various miracle molecules. And then you can become a superhuman mental athlete, develop your brain and become a genius in a short period of time. And then you can go and become a spiritual master with greater spiritual power than 99.999% of people in human history right now in 2025 with this technology.
Okay, let's move over from the physical. Let's go over to the mental and the spiritual. What sort of protocols do you have for those fields?
Well, so I experimented heavily with all these different nootropics. Nootropics means like things that stimulate the mind to perform better, but without the stimulatory effect, because there's stimulants like caffeine. That's not really a nootropic, it's a stimulant. And there's nootropics that just improve cognitive function. They don't just give you energy. Your brain gets better memory and just better ability to understand things and make connections and be able to learn faster and process more and think deeper. So you could map out all the different mental attributes, like memory and focus. And just like you could map out the physical attributes like strength and speed and how many reps you could do of something, stamina, or flexibility, right? Or endurance. So map out the mental attributes. And some people are very strong in some areas, like maybe their memory is very good, but their ability to focus is very bad. Or maybe they're like a very anxious type. They have a lot of energy, a lot of focus, a lot of dopamine. Their brain's firing. There's, NMDA receptors and dopamine receptors are firing and adrenaline receptors are firing, but like they're deficient in GABA. And so they're feeling anxious and they burn out very quickly. So usually what I help someone do is balance their brain so that they're not bottlenecked by a weakness that they have. So instead of thinking of like, how do we make this brain superhuman? It's usually I'm thinking, how do we fix the problems that the brain has first? And then we can make everything superhuman, because otherwise you're limited by whatever your weakest attribute is. Yeah. So there's unlimited really things you can do with the brain, and science is developing every day. But me personally, I had some amount of early onset Alzheimer's. I'm only 42, but I had COVID really bad and I got a lot of brain inflammation, and I could go into why and why it makes sense that I had COVID and why I intentionally let myself suffer as almost an experiment. But the result was a lot more brain damage than I expected. Like that brain fog I had for 2 weeks, like some amount of that lasted for years. And as common, people call it long COVID, whatever, but it is brain damage. And Leo Longevity was living with me, and he was explaining about how what a significant amount of brain damage I likely suffered from COVID. And he also explained to me that my genetics oxidize LDL, bad cholesterol transport. And it results in Alzheimer's and dementia at a very early age. He reviewed my DNA report. And he said, I need to get my LDL as low as possible to prevent getting early. So anyways, I followed his advice and I took a bunch of supplements like NSI 189, Dihexa, 9-MeBC, and then Enhanced Labs makes a Genius 2.0, which is a stack of pretty much every natural and over-the-counter nootropic and brain benefiting supplement. And I rebuilt my brain. It's working really great now. Maybe not, it's not quite to the level of my peak mental performance as a lawyer. I still got a little ways to go, but that's not because I don't have as many brain cells or it's, a physiological problem. That's because I'm not doing as many exercises for my brain, challenging my brain as much as when I was a high performance lawyer.
So did Leo have COVID? Did Leo get COVID?
He got the vaccine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he highly regretted it. And he was going to research on how to detox himself. And, but he got it because he was going to have a baby and his wife wanted him to get it. Very common reason why men in America got it is because their wife told him, you got to get it to keep us safe. And the man's just like, oh, okay, fine. And before he researched it. And then also actually he did read the research at the time, but the research was all faked by the pharmaceutical companies. Later, the research started coming out that gave real actual third-party analysis and found that the vaccine was probably not a good idea. But he did get the vaccine at the time and he was worried about the effects it would have on his health. And he did want to detox it.
Can you explain to me a little bit about his death?
What do you want to know
How did he die?
specifically? Oh, nobody knows for sure.
Oh, okay.
He died in my house, and I found him days after he had passed away, maybe 3 days later.
Really?
Because after a certain period of time and not hearing from him, I thought he just took a day trip with a girl or something. So
So you was living together?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I finally said, wow, it's been days. He didn't respond to my messages. I thought I'd go in his room and find that, he just packed all his stuff and he was just on an extended vacation. But I went in his room and it didn't look like he packed anything, and the bathroom was closed. So I went in the bathroom and his body was blocking the door. I think what happened is, he had quite a temper, quite an anger issue. And he also was not very good with mechanical things. And I know this sounds crazy. He's such a smart guy. He's an absolute genius in some things. And some things he's...
What do you mean by mechanical?
Like setting up a camera.
Physical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like mechanical, like something that requires multiple things to work together, and he's got to fix it, or like he can't figure out how to use a camera, for example.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like anything mechanical like that, or construction, right? So the door handle was broken from the inside on the bathroom.
Okay, yeah.
And so what I think probably happened is I think he probably had an anxiety attack when he would talk to his ex-wife at the time. Every time he would throw like a tantrum. He was so angry and kind of lose control. And so I think maybe he talked to her and had a tantrum, and then in the bathroom, and then tried to open the door and it broke, and he tried to get out and like fell and hit his head or something. That's what I think. I think he hit his head. So I think he fell. And I think he probably was trying to grab stuff in the bathroom to open the door. It looked like he was trying to use anything in the bathroom that he could as a tool to try to open the door. Because I went back to the door afterwards, after everything, police is done with the scene, everything. And I went in the bathroom and I closed the door and I sat there to try to figure out what could have happened. And then I'm like, okay, so the door handle's broken. So he must have broke it. Like, first of all, is it hard to break the door handle? And then I look at the door handle. It's the cheapest Chinese import. You know how in Thailand, some things are really garbage, cheap cardboard, like from China, but they're so cheap. So like, this is a new construction house and it's a very nice house, but there's a few things like the fixtures, like the water faucets and the door handles are so cheap that you could just like break it. So I think it just broke. And then actually I thought it would be easy, like to try to open the door, but it was actually challenging. I did construction when I was younger, so I know how to like do everything with a door handle, door lock. So for me, I could figure out, okay, I could wedge something here and turn here and it would open. But I know he knows nothing about this. I can imagine he's home alone and this door handle breaks and there's no way, you can't even break the door down because it's reinforced around the outside to where you could break it from the outside, but you couldn't break it from the inside. There's too much support. So I think he just went in a frenzy trying to get out of the bathroom and couldn't get out.
I hear you. How did you know him? Just out of interest?
I first met him. Well, actually, the reason why he got into YouTube was he was working with Guru Amin. He was like his editor, and he was helping him with like deciding what to talk about and scripts and all this kind of stuff. And so he was watching my content. He saw Guru Amin, and he somehow got connected to Guru Amin, became his assistant. And then I always knew of him because Amin would talk about him all the time, but I didn't know like who was Leo because, but at that time he wasn't on camera. And then he went on camera, and then I was in Irvine and I met up with him in person because we were friends through Amin before they had a big fight. And then when I met up with him, yeah, he said the reason why he got into YouTube was because of my videos. And so what he wanted to do was what I do, but make it more scientific and highly credible. And then so we hung out there, and then we were just planned on hanging out more, but we just stayed in touch by phone. And then when this whole thing happened, with his ex-wife and the domestic violence allegations, he had to leave the US. So he went to Spain and set up life there. But everybody in the industry abandoned him completely. Like nobody, there's a couple friends he had behind the scenes, but there was nobody supporting him whatsoever. And I was supporting him. Like I was talking positively about him, trying to build him up, trying to defend him a little bit, but I had to be sensitive because at the time him and Amin were also fighting. So like anytime I said something good about Leo, Amin would get mad. Anytime I said something good about Amin, Leo would get mad. So I just, balance it, just try to say a little bit nice about both of them, protect because I believe that when someone does something bad, it shouldn't take away everything that they did good. So Leo did a lot of good. He helped a lot of people. And then all of a sudden, one bad domestic violence thing, it's like everybody just throws out all the good work that he did. No, I mean, maybe it's a point system, 10 points for the good things that he did and 1 point minus for the bad things he did. He still got 9 points. At least that's how I saw it. So then he was in Spain and I was talking to him and he wasn't ever going to get back in the YouTube game. He was just done, gone. And I encouraged him to get back into the YouTube game and offered to rehabilitate him. So I brought him to Thailand, all expense paid for everything for his life for 8 months. I think he lived with me and totally rehabilitated him. I mean, until Connor Murphy came. And then when Connor Murphy came, Leo got jealous of the attention I was giving to Connor at the time, but I didn't know that until I reflected on it afterwards. I didn't know how significant that was. So I think at the time that he passed away, I think his will to live was not very high because of his ex-wife and because he felt very alone because I had shifted my attention to Connor. But I shifted my attention to Connor per his advice and request. He said, Tony, I think you and Connor could be the biggest fitness vlog in the world. Both of your personalities and style and knowledge and everything is like beyond anything that's out there as far as fitness vlogging. He's like, trust me, do that. Go with Connor and do that. We can still do our scientific videos, but just make the vlogs a priority. So I said, okay, I'll go with Connor and I'll start vlogging. So we actually the day that he passed away, that we estimate based on the condition of his body, was the day that Connor and I were vlogging. And I did see that Leo felt lonely, and it was a little weird that day. Like I invited him to come too. I said, come with us. And he's like, no. I got to write scripts and this and that. But I was surprised he didn't want to come. If he would have come with us, it would have been all fine. He would have been part of the group of friends and all that. I think there was some kind of competitive feeling with Connor. It was really weird because I didn't see that coming. We had been talking about Connor a while until I actually met Connor in person. And it was always Leo encouraging me to spend time with him. So it was kind of shocking that Leo felt this way about Connor when finally Connor actually showed up.
Thank you for sharing.
Long story.
Thank
sorry,
you. Appreciate. Yeah. No. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
It's a podcast. So how about like the spiritual side now? Like what sort of biohacks do you use for spiritual side?
This is a touchy one because of all people find physical enhancement offensive, steroids, chemistry, cheating, in sports, these type of things. And then cognitive performance, I think people don't find as offensive, but it's kind of hard to see the results. So it's just people don't believe how much you can increase.
Hidden, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you know?
And people who are taking cognitive performance enhancers, like chess players, for example, or golfers take some things, or business professionals would be the most relevant. They don't talk about it usually, so nobody realizes how like a lot of these high performer people actually rely and use performance enhancements for the brain. And then spirituality is really touchy because everybody has their own ideology, whether it's Christianity or Muslim or Jewish or what, what's another popular one? Buddhism, right? Because we're here in Thailand. And so when you start talking about, what is spirituality, because it's a broader category, it's less like physical is very easy to see. Take steroids, build muscle, or feel the energy boost, something like that. Mental's harder to see, and spiritual's even harder to see. Like, how would you know
Yeah.
how would you know looking at me that I'm spiritually awakened, whether I've met God or not, whether I've had a life or death
Your
experience,
consciousness.
whether I can
Yeah.
talk to ghosts or not? Like, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do have these superpowers, and you can get them by either meditating for 10 hours a day, like monks do, and isolate themselves. You can get to a very high level of spirituality, or you can do it through using chemistry. So anybody who's used any psychedelics has can relate somewhat to how much you can fast track spirituality. And then spirituality, you could break down into different attributes also. So, like one, I've never broken it down. Usually I break everything down by, I call pathway. So like for muscle building, I break down every muscle building pathway. And when I do a mass blast to put on more muscle than ever in human history, it's just a matter of making sure that none of those pathways are a limiting factor, and you're giving attention to every muscle building pathway.
Oh, okay.
So you have to identify the pathways first. This is part of, I call it Tony Huge laws of biochemistry physics. Identify all the pathways. So then we come over to spirituality. And, I ask spiritual gurus, what are the pathways of spirituality? And you get all these different answers, and like everybody has a different idea of what's spiritual. But I think there's a couple like real world benefits that you could notice of increasing a spiritual attribute. Like one, for example, and the lines may be blurred between like some sort of cognitive performance and spiritual enhancement. But one would be, for an example, you're in an incredible amount of pain. So I think I asked you about this once before. Like, what do you do? What do you do when you're in a tremendous amount of pain? Maybe I don't remember it's the kind of thing we talk about in the biohacking group that we're in, So how do you get above that pain? So what do you do? Like, you feel a tremendous amount of pain, your leg's getting cut off, or you jump into a cold plunge, much simpler to relate to.
Be aware of it, embrace it. I'm going through the last couple of times when I've gone to the dentist, and like it was a massive anxiety. I like pass out, like clinic when I was like 16, 17, pass out, dentist, pass out, like doctors dislocate my shoulders, pass out in the waiting room. From having magic mushrooms about a couple of months ago, like I plucked up through like a journey. I said, I cannot take this to the grave with me. Like I'm eating and it's painful. It's been in that situation for like 4 or 5 years. I need to attack it. Do you know what I mean? I was putting myself at the end. So like, how will I feel when I leave the dentist? How like I'm talking here now, you spoke about dental work earlier on. Now I would feel less of myself if I was still here with that fear. But because I've got rid of it, the monkeys are off my back. So I've as soon as I got out the dentist, I went, yes, because I've had that fear and that pain eating at me. Do you know what I mean? For how many years, and I've just let it eat at me. But when I had the mushrooms, I said, right, no, that's my lower self. I need to start being more of my higher self, and I just attacked them over the past 3-4 months, man. And I feel like a brand new person.
And I would say that this is increasing a spiritual attribute. Like, you rise above your physical pain because you are thinking of something bigger. You're thinking, even thinking of the future, as something bigger than your present self. But what happens is, throughout the day or whenever you encounter things that bring you great pain, and you have to figure out how to rise above it. And one way to do that is to think of something much bigger than yourself. Think about the universe. Think about life and death and God and the fact that your life here is only temporary. And so I think another attribute of spirituality is the relativity to your physical existence on earth. So you have this physical existence, and to most people, that's all it is. There's nothing more. But when you zoom out and you see like, okay, this physical existence is a very small blip on this infinite timeline, and maybe there's infinite dimensions in a universe that we can't even comprehend its size, and you realize how small you are. And then you also, the other side of it is like, it helps you deal with pain and getting through any kind of pain, but it also helps you with pleasure, because the pleasure becomes so much more pleasurable when you realize how special it is, this moment that you have. And these books like
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle, that would be another one, you know, being present,
Yeah,
for
these
example.
books must have helped as
Oh,
well,
this is another one.
because
The
these are
Secret.
like two very deep spiritual books.
Yeah.
And I read those over the past 2-3 months. So it seems like my consciousness, awareness, and all of that risen. That's what pushed me to go. And like while I was in the chair, I was thinking through Eckhart Tolle, don't run away, because the more you run away and go, I really need to go, I really like stop, like, do you know what I mean? Accept it, embrace it. You're alive. I'm alive. Like I'm attacking one of my fears. Do you know what I mean? And like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, like you surrender to it.
That's
you
the
stop
one.
trying to fight
That's
it.
the one. I totally surrendered.
And so this is like a muscle, surrendering when you need to surrender. I mean, don't surrender if you don't need to surrender. You're fighting in war to defend yourself and your family. You're not surrendering, but you're surrendering to something you can't control.
Yeah, and what
you need to conserve energy for what you can control.
So I put some thought into it. I studied it a little bit, and it's the like not having the ability to let go and give someone else control of my body.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like putting some like for some reason I had paranoia about Thai people operating, like maybe because it's like, do you know what I mean? Like I've grown up and like I don't know, but yeah, and it was just a massive weight lifted. How I look at it, like with pain now, is I remind myself of all the painful situations I've gone through, heartbreak, like some of the worst things I've done in my life. They've built me up after I've healed from them. Do you know what I mean? So I just do my best to welcome them in, welcome the pain. Thank you. What is it here to teach me?
And another like awakening thing for me was I always was fed a negative feeling about the pain and suffering. And then once I met God or experienced bliss and enlightenment, I realized like there isn't pain in heaven, let's say, right? So pain is actually a very unique experience that we get to experience in this human form on earth. And so you can actually be grateful. Like this is actually part of what I signed up for, you know, in coming into this body. I actually signed up for, I wanted pain as part of the experience. Like playing a video game. Like I want to suffer in the game because I want the challenge. I want to actually play the game. If it was all just easy, then just stay in heaven. Why even come to earth? You know?
Certainly, I totally understand that. And it's a total mindset switch, isn't it? Of like, rather than being attached and like not surrendering, basically, like you're trying to escape. Your parents have died. Your missus has left you. You're trying to escape that present moment. You're trying to escape the circumstances instead of going, right, thank you for your time. I appreciate everything you've done for me. Now, like I've said with AJ, thank you. Like now let's move forward. And how am I going to attack life more? What am I going to take from this man's death?
Yeah.
Now I spoke to him on the phone about 2 weeks ago before he died. And he said, Gaz, like, I know you want to do what I'm doing, like seminars and that, which I told him straight away. And he says, why don't you early next year do a workshop seminar? I got off the phone. I thought, not ready for that. Not ready for that. It took his death to wake me up to go, whether you're ready or not, you might not have the chance ever. Like, so grab the bull by the horns. Do you know what I mean? And push it and do it now. So yeah, so I'm doing that very soon.
I have another perspective on AJ's death, is that his greatest fantasy, goal, was to, this sounds really funny, have sex with an alien in his lifetime.
Okay.
And it could be in a physical form, or it could be through teleporting your soul, your essence, your energy to a place where your energy is interacting with alien energy. I mean, it sounds crazy, but he was actually taking a lot of steps to it. He actually signed up and paid $15,000 just for the attendance. And then of course, another $10,000 for travel, for $25,000 to go to this event, I think in San Francisco, somewhere in the US, which was, they were going to show for the first time publicly alien artifacts. And this was coming up like right soon after he died. So he just barely missed it. But I'm just saying how into this he was, into advanced spirituality, that he was actually investing in trying to be on the most forefront and cutting edge of it. So then I thought, well, what if he had the opportunity to leave this body and go have sex with an alien? So in my mind, in my most optimistic perspective and viewpoint, he may be out there having sex with aliens right now. We might be like, oh, he died, but he might have just transcended to a level that we can't even comprehend.
And he was like one of the fittest people. Like, well, he's a lot not as fit as Joe Aesthetic, but
he cared about his health a lot. He was doing a lot of health
longevity,
biohacking. He was doing a lot of walking. Well, this is one thing I worry about. He was in Bangkok, and his exercise was a lot of walking in Bangkok, intentionally, like getting a lot of steps in. And the problem is he's not wearing a mask. I mean, I don't believe in wearing a mask for the viruses, but I believe in wearing a mask for the smog. The particles are bigger. The mask can actually capture a lot of it, I didn't know that. Depending on the mask. Yeah. So he was walking for exercise a lot in Bangkok, and maybe that's why his lungs became compromised because of the exhaust, because of the pollution. It's one of the reasons I don't live in Bangkok. It's one of the reasons I moved near the ocean, although our air quality is not very good in Pattaya. Pattaya air quality is terrible also, but it's not as near as bad as Bangkok. Like in Pattaya, I could go jogging and I could be okay with that. In Bangkok, I would never jog. I would not jog outside.
Oh. Okay, thank you for sharing, Tony. I was just going to switch subjects, but we didn't hit on like we did a bit on psilocybin and stuff like that. So have you had any epiphanies or awakening moments through having psilocybin?
The first time I did psilocybin was a mega dose, and it was a really bad trip. It started out being an amazing trip, and I was doing it live on Instagram. And then I had way too many. My phone was blowing up like, what are you doing? You cannot be high on, especially being like a celebrity. You cannot be high on camera. Who knows what you're going to say, what you're going to do. Like, you can never get rid of this. Anyways, meanwhile, all of that's been censored and gone. So it's not permanent anymore. But I was having an amazing trip. I was in heaven. I was euphoric. It was spiritual,
mushrooms, or
loving mushrooms, huge amounts of mushrooms. And I mean, it was like normal dosage, maybe 3 to 4 grams, but this must have been like 20 grams.
Wow.
Because
first time.
Well, it was an accident. The shop blends one bottle for like a group of people.
Okay.
But we each got a bottle.
Okay.
So we each had enough mushrooms for a whole group, and we drank that, and I drank all of it. And then also they're like, oh, you want to try the dry mushrooms? So then I was eating the dry mushrooms on top of it. And my friend, once he realized how high he was and started having a bad dream, freaking out, he's like making himself throw up. I'm trying to make myself throw up to get rid of the mushrooms, but I can't. Trying to get it to throw up is after I stopped the live. Yeah.
How long was you doing until you cut it?
How long?
How long was you doing on camera until you nipped it in the bud?
It's like I was videotaping myself on the come up for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And then that's when I got enough overwhelming amount of messages saying, get off the camera before you destroy your entire, future.
That's one of my favorite attributes from you, Tony. Like, you're courageous, and like your balls that you just like, regardless, like you do what you want to do in life. Like,
but how amazing would this be? I never thought of this before, but how amazing if all of your favorite influencers did mushrooms on camera and you got to know who they really are. Because the mushrooms, you don't care what people think about you anymore, and you let your true self out. And it would be a way to verify, like, is this influencer I'm listening to actually authentic or not? Or is it a show? You would know if they did mushrooms on camera in a megadose and just sat there and talked to the camera. You'd be able to see if they were authentic or not.
I will do that.
Yeah, there's your challenge, to prove you're authentic.
Certainly,
I have a feeling you're 100% authentic.
I look forward to doing that. So earlier on, before it slips my mind, you mentioned about like your YouTube channel had 100,000 followers. What happened with that?
Oh, I've had 10 YouTube channels that have been censored. So, 150,000, 50,000, another 50,000, another 40,000, and then a whole bunch of them are 25,000.
So when it's censored, that's just can you apply
deleted,
back?
gone.
Just Totally
Yeah.
gone. Ah.
Yeah. Wiped out. It's too bad because when I started YouTube, I thought of it like an asset, like real estate. I'm investing a huge amount of my own money and time into these videos, and they'll be here forever. And they'll be my legacy, and I'll be able to go back and watch them. My
That's
children will
exactly
be
how
able
I
to go
feel
watch
right
them.
now.
Yeah.
So we better be careful.
But it's it like when having everything deleted was absolutely crushing. It was like, oh, my entire future. I saw myself as a YouTuber. Like if someone asked me, what are you? I'd think of so I'm a YouTuber. And then they just completely took that away. My whole dream.
You feel like you got robbed.
Yeah. Yeah. But since then I just had to learn the game. I mean, plenty of people warned me. They said, you speak against big pharma, you tell people the truth about health and wellness. Like that's not what these platforms are for. Everything is funded by monopolies, and you can't rescue people from the matrix that the matrix is profiting off these people. They belong to the matrix, so you can rescue people from the matrix in small amounts, but if you start doing it in very, very large amounts, then of course the matrix is going to get rid of you.
Okay. So can you just give me some advice with how far you feel I should push the truth on this channel?
I think your style, first of all, is not going to be, so my style was being just extremely blunt and crass. You notice how we started this podcast by me talking about like how long I was willing to have sex and the girl's responsible for her own orgasm.
Yeah.
Like some of the things I'm saying are intentionally offensive because it's kind of a hook for people to think I'm like crazy. And then once they understand my methodology and the reasons why I'm saying it, my experience and the data that I have, they realize, oh my gosh, it's actually true. But to just come out and say it the way I say it, you probably don't want to do that. Now, I've talked to enough YouTube consultants that you can interview other people and they can be all crazy. But if you're the one being like a crazy conspiracy theorist and you're the podcast host and it's your channel and it's in your name, then it's more risky. So you're in a good position because you can have other people come on and talk about crazy stuff. You can ask questions. If you start advocating like you guys should not take the vaccine and you're the host and it's your channel, they'll take you down.
How about like with like psilocybin and DMT and ayahuasca and mushrooms?
It seems like in general, you can talk about it the way we're talking about it and interview about it. You just, you can't like advocate for it as the channel owner because then they'll say this channel advocates the use of drugs, which unfortunately it shouldn't be labeled as a drug. It shouldn't be labeled as a dangerous drug. It shouldn't be a scheduled substance, in my opinion. In fact, they already legalized it in Thailand. They're legalizing it for use in medical settings, a lot of places in the world. So it'll become more and more popular as people wake up. But right now they label some of these things as dangerous drugs that you should not be like promoting as the podcast host, but you ask questions. You can say nice things about it. Oh, psilocybin helped me a lot, but never like tell the audience you guys should try it. I actually told people like, don't get the government injection. I'm telling you, you will die. And I mean, I didn't say, I always backed it up with the science. I said, don't give the government, I would say don't get the government injection unless you're on a comprehensive stack to prevent blood clotting disorders. But that even is enough to get censored during that time because it was such a sensitive topic.
I hear you. How long did it take you to recover from like these channels getting censored?
Emotionally,
yes.
I'm still not recovered. It's still like a vulnerability. It's like a trauma, like, I mean, every time I talk, I try to be as uncensored as I can, but I've always got this alarm bell in the back of my head, like, oh, don't say, and I stop myself all the time. I want to say crazy things that the public can't even imagine I would say, but I hold myself back and then I'm like, okay, how can I just tone it down 30%?
I'm with you. Totally understand that. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Tony. Now let's go back into your childhood and your upbringing. Who was the younger version of Tony Huge?
This is the most bizarre thing, but my parents just visited here in Thailand and they're just like, yeah, pretty much your entire life, as weird as it is, was all predictable by watching you at a young age. I mean, I was super into science. I was experimenting. My daughter's doing the same thing. Maybe a lot of kids do the same thing, but I feel like my level was obsession level. I would get all the ingredients in the kitchen and mix them together and cook them and see what kind of weird things I could make, like potions and stuff like that. So that, now here we are. I'm actually like an underground biohacking chemist. And then I got into fitness when I was 12 years old because the girl I was interested in said she'd only date a guy. And this is 12 years old, 6th grade. I'd only date a guy that has abs and muscles. So I built my body for that. And then that became an addiction, just a self-improvement addiction, a good addiction, something I attached my ego to, identified with, created my avatar around. So I became a fitness guy at a young age. And then being on camera, I liked attention. One of my earlier jobs when I was 17 years old was modeling, like a little bit of runway work, modeling clothes. And in Mexico, because my last year of high school was in Mexico. So in Mexico, I was doing modeling on weekends for $20 an hour, which is pretty good. Or a 17-year-old in a foreign country, I felt pretty good about that. I know it doesn't sound like a lot for like modeling. Is like, it's not like modeling because I'm so amazing. It's just I'm a foreigner and they want a foreigner. And
it was a long time ago as well.
Yeah, a long time ago. So money's, inflation and all that. But anyways, that was amazing. I love that. And I love the attention. It's weird because I have a lot of social anxiety, but it's like doing modeling gives me an opportunity to like harness it, use it, work through it, because otherwise my social anxiety was crippling. Like I would have, like, how you have this pass out thing with the pain, like I feel like I'm going to pass out from social anxiety when I was younger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have this, and it's genetic too, because if you look at my genetic report, it says I have a hair trigger stress response. So like I can get stressed very quick and fast, and then I crash. So my dopamine and adrenaline spikes very fast and then crashes very fast. Some people are kind of unaffected. Their dopamine levels are kind of stable. Adrenaline levels are kind of stable. And some people, like, they get triggered. And so I could be one of those people who just gets triggered and is just angry and just reactive. But instead, because my trigger was so strong, I was forced to control it and keep myself more calm and harness this energy. And so doing modeling and things like that was a way for me to like put myself in that situation and try to overcome this fear and the social anxiety. Yeah. So I liked doing that, getting on camera. And then back when cameras first came out, digital camera, when I was really young, I started practicing with video editing, with like on a VHS it was a really archaic system. Really old school, but I was into that video editing and stuff when I was younger too. So it seems only natural that in the end I become an underground biohacker who's obsessed with self-improvement and who likes the media and presenting to the world. And then also a lot of my time was spent theorizing on how things that we thought are normal are not shouldn't be normal.
What, like? Because
I always felt there's so many things I just felt like this is not normal. Even like sitting in school, just like everything that we think is normal is like, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like if I just go with my feeling, and then, okay, that's a feeling, but is there a logical reason why I feel that way? Is there something about human biology and anthropologically how we evolved that we're putting ourselves into an unnatural situation and we're accepting it as natural, but it's actually not natural. It's just what's been developed the last 100 years. And we're told that this is natural, but it's not an optimal way for human to thrive.
What was school like for you then?
I was a loner, but I was friends with everybody, but I didn't have a clique. Like everybody in school, you could say that person's part of that clique. That person's a football player. That person's a rapper. That person's a rocker. But if they looked at me, they'd be like, that person's what is he? He's the most jacked in the school, strongest. He's super smart, but he sits alone and eats his lunch meat and protein smoothies that he carries with him in an ice chest. Like that's how obsessed I was about nutrition, and weightlifting and all that. So I'm like the weird kid that just couldn't, I was so weird. I couldn't fit into anything. So I didn't go to any social functions, the school dances, none of this stuff. one, but it was so uncomfortable. I left as soon as I could.
Oh.
So I didn't drink alcohol. So I didn't have that, social lubricant, and I had intense social anxiety. So I stay home and read books and work out and do taekwondo, like real Sigma male isolated stuff, which gave me a lot of weird social behaviors, makes me think differently than most people, makes me offensive to a lot of people because I don't know how to, speak sometimes in a way that makes people more comfortable, make people uncomfortable, the things I say, like starting out the podcast talking about time to orgasm,
There's a saying from Ralph Smart. He says, my first spiritual teacher, if you feel like you're in the world and you don't fit in, it's because you've came here to create another one.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
All the people that are in the world, they're fitting in. There's not going to be no change because they're just doing everything what the group does. But I'm not here to fit in. You're not here to fit in. We're here to share different.
And when you're part of a smaller community, then you might not find anybody that you really resonate with. But when you look at the global community, look at, you come from England, right? Yeah. I'm from America. On a global scale, now we found each other. And we are like-minded in a lot of ways of personal development, independent thinking, critical thinking, these type of things. Freedom is a priority. Quality of life is a priority. Questioning authority is a priority.
Your truth, putting your truth out there and being authentic. That's what really attracts me to you.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of, especially in the media, there's very few authentic people. It's almost always a show. Carefully crafted characters to show certain parts of someone's life or personality, and it's not really who they are.
Staged, totally staged. What I really rate is like when someone can put their authentic self out there and in the back of their mind, knowing that it's going to upset someone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or you're going to say something that like doesn't make you look, it damages your reputation slightly, but it's your truth. So people can take it or leave it. It's no problem. Do you know what I mean? But I'm going to put it out there because I feel it's the authentic and valuable thing to do.
Yeah.
You're living in your truth.
Yeah.
Living in your truth.
And when I went on YouTube, that was also a very rare thing. In the fitness industry, it's all about just showing how amazing your life is and how amazing your body is. And I went and I showed my amazing life and body. And I also was very honest about all the bad things about me and challenges I'm overcoming. And that had not been done in the fitness industry before. There was not that authenticity in the fitness industry before.
What bad things do you remember sharing or going through then?
Oh, well, I mean, the most famous one is I'm not allowed to say the word of what they're called anymore, but you can say it. Okay. It's humans that are born as boys who become girls who look so much like girls that you can't tell the difference.
Okay. Well, what can I say? What you can't?
What they're called in Thailand. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got censored a lot for talking about them.
Yeah.
But I put a lot of them on camera, and I just wanted to rock people's world and change their perspective, challenge their perspective. And I put a lot of them on camera, and my audience would be like, "Oh, wow, she's so hot." Da, da, da. And then later I'd say, "Actually, it's a dude." Yes. But I got so much heat for that, so much hate. And it's weird because I thought with the LGBTQ community, I thought that there was some kind of like awakening and embracing about that, but then how could I get so much hate about it? I don't understand. I guess you have to look at each individual, but it's like you have some people who are pro LGBTQ and then you have other people who are extremely against it. And yeah, I seem to offend both.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Strange.
But I was being honest that I actually found them very attractive. Extremely attractive. And I caused a lot of men to try it and decide that that's what they actually liked, which was one of the reasons why I did it was because I know a lot of people are living in denial of what they actually want. And I just wanted to give them all the options and say, you don't have to just do what Disney movie told you to do. Well, it's different. Yeah. Disney movie from before, it changed, right?
What people think is politically correct.
Yeah. Like, you don't have to be politically correct. You can find what makes you happy,
Yeah.
not just what makes you happy in a hedonistic way, but what gives you the energy to realize your full human potential and purpose on earth. Because it's very hard to do that when you're miserable. I mean, being miserable can guide you to what maybe your purpose is, but then to actually get it out there, you need to work really hard, and you need to have a certain energy, and you have to have a level of happiness and love what you do. Like, you're loving what you do right now. So you're going to be good at it. You should be doing this.
Thank you.
Right. But if someone tells you, oh, you can't be a podcast person, then that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's what I'm trying to break for people.
I'll switch you. Put that out.
No, it's okay. Too many people said I'm not allowed to say it anymore. Because once I start saying it, I can't stop talking about it. When the cameras are off, we'll talk about it a lot.
Oh, you do? How into Ladyboys are you, Tony?
It's a very interesting, talking about spirituality. It's when you see something that just confuses your brain so much that you question your entire reality, like, that is a spiritual exercise. And that's what happened. I sit there and I just stare at them in awe, like, what? I don't understand. I'm confused. Like, even no matter how much time I sit there and stare at them, I still stare at them. I'm just confused, and I just question my reality.
I'm going to give you the story. I don't care. First time I come to Thailand, I'll give you the short version. I was dancing. I've had a few drinks. Okay. She's absolutely beautiful. Lovely.
Yeah.
Like, just having a great time in that. 10 minutes later, we go to the beach. Yeah. I'm giving it the old. Yeah. And then I've gone for the reach around.
Surprise.
I've just had to carry on. And that's the story to the world.
Yeah.
That was for you, Tony. If you want to, I would tell you that.
Everybody needs to, leave this earth with at least one really good story.
So I was a bit traumatized, and then my friend that I was with, he's like, I told him a story, and like, I was like, oh, people are gonna think so and so. Like 8 years ago, I would never fucking think I would say this, like, just because, like, I'm not in my authentic self. But now I can just go, and what? This is me. It happened. I'm sharing you the story because I think you'll have a laugh about it, because I've had a laugh and I'm comfortable. Well, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but I've said it anyway.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at, my friend says, oh, yeah, well, it's happened with me loads of times.
Yeah.
Like,
at a certain point, you're not really getting tricked anymore. You probably know what is going on.
Anyway, hope you enjoyed that, Mum.
When my parents came to visit, I had them interact with some of these characters also, and they were blown away. I can tell when I can tell someone's a man or a woman now, but it still blows my mind, because I still have to work at it. I have to actually analyze some things and figure out whether it's a man or a woman. But my parents, they couldn't tell the difference.
No. Did you take them through soy cigs?
No, I successfully kept my parents away from all of the red light stuff in Thailand.
Okay. And your parents are still together?
Well, this is my mom and my stepdad, who've been together since I was 5. So 37 years they've been together.
Okay.
And the most perfect relationship, and why my standards for women is so high, because of my mom and my relationship between my mom and my stepdad. And that's why I decided I could never find one woman as good as my mom. And that's why I have multiple girlfriends. One of the reasons.
How about your father?
My father that passed away was a super successful business guy, not affectionate, but cared about me and my brother a lot, and really like focused on teaching us business at a young age. So we would, be with him while he's in business meetings and driving his car to go places for business. So we got a very young education on business and high society life. And then he passed away when I was 20, and his death wish was I go to law school. So then I immediately went to law school after he passed away.
I did mean to ask you about that, because I know you said you was very much passionate about the fitness, but you went to law school.
I was passionate about fitness since I was 12. And even when I was a lawyer in court, I was reading medical studies. That's how obsessed I was. But I became a lawyer because my dad wanted me to, not for actually practicing law, but because in order to take over the family businesses, we needed to have a lawyer in the family. Like that's something that we needed, like that our family legacy or lineage, and we needed a lawyer in there.
What business was that?
Real estate development, remodeling, buying properties, fixing them up, selling them, holding them, renting them, trading them, everything with real estate, the real estate game.
Totally understand. Okay. So let's move on to your home life. Tell me a little bit about that, because it's extremely unique, isn't it? And that's one of the big things that you're known for.
Right now I have, it always changes every day, but let's say 4 girlfriends living with me at the house. And it's not like, it's not just a sex thing. I think the biggest misunderstanding is people think it's just all about sex. I'm actually trying to build a family. It's sort of like a Muslim family where you have 4 wives. But instead of keeping them separate, we all actually play together, sleep together, romantic together. So it's kind of like a sex thing, but it's also family. And then they all help raise my daughter, and in the end, I'll have 4 wives that live with me, each one with my children, children with each.
Okay.
And they'll all help take care of all the children, and they'll all help take care of all each other. And they are each other's best friends. So they take care of each other. So I know it's very anti maybe Christian Catholic style. It's much more similar to a Muslim style. But when I've studied and practiced with every type of relationship that I can think of, and what I know about how humans are designed and how we evolved, this seems to be the most optimal way for both men and women and children and a family unit to thrive. So it's actually like a scientific calculation that I arrived at this, in addition to it feels right, in addition to my conversations with the universe telling me that this is the right way to do it, and a lot of other input, including, some super successful billionaires and 100 millionaires and how their lives are actually behind the scenes. So I understand, though, it's like extremely offensive to a lot of people, but they can learn a lot from it, because putting me in this situation and experimenting and struggling through this has made me an absolute master of female psychology. And I came from having no understanding of female psychology. My mom was my biggest influence in how I see relationships, and she taught me everything completely wrong. I mean, she taught me what works for her in the 1970s and 80s, but that's not, that window of time is not a natural human cultural situation.
Can you share with us some of your most valuable teachings or valuable philosophies that you've learned throughout?
Yeah, most importantly, that women are completely different than men.
Okay.
We have to accept that. And that's a beautiful thing. There should be polarity between male and female. It's amazing. And you could also have a man, and one takes the female role. But then that one that takes the female role should understand what it is to take on that feminine energy and all the different components and parts of the puzzle piece that fits together with the masculine energy. Like you have to understand, to have a perfect union, you need to understand all of the elements of masculinity, all of the elements of femininity, and make it fit together, no matter what the actual gender is. So, it works better with a man and a woman. That's optimal, right? But it could also be same sex. So because I didn't understand what women were, I couldn't understand what a man was. I couldn't be a man until I learned myself personally. See, the difference is maybe someone else, they're taught by their dad. This is how you be a man, right? I'm taught by my dad about business and just general taking care of family and all that, and observing. Like, my stepdad is the most amazing influence. He's like the perfect man, but he didn't teach me about how to be masculine with women because he didn't need to be. It was so easy for him. My mom is so perfect that he didn't really have to work or understand it either. It just fit together for him. But for me, I really struggled to figure out what is femininity, what is masculinity, what is my role, what is her role, most optimal. And so now I every day I wake up and my Western beta male simp brain is active by default. And I have to remind myself, no. Don't, because my mom also would always say, live by the golden rule, treat others how you'd want to be treated. And so I always treated others how I wanted to be treated. Turns out that nobody wants to be treated the way I want to be treated. They want to be how they would treat it, how they want to be treated. I know that saying, I overgeneralized it in my interpretation, but still, that was like a fundamental thing I thought on a daily basis. And that really was not the way I should have thought of it. I need to treat other people how they want to be treated. And I didn't know how women want to be treated because they will not tell you. Women won't tell you how they want to be treated. They're not even allowed to tell you. Like if a woman really goes on YouTube and says, this is how I want to be treated, and this is the reality of what I think, censored, you can't talk about this stuff. Andrew Tate talks about it, but look what happened to him. Andrew Tate's the most honest about male and female polarity and what a man is and what a woman is. And everything he says is like, oh my gosh, this is what I also arrived at through my own trial and error, not by reading a book, not because society told me, not because I watched a movie, but actual on the ground experimentation, trial and error with 1,000 women. I've learned what women are, learned what men are. Andrew Tate is right. I believe all the same things. Andrew Tate is holding back like 30%. He can't say. And there's more than that. And you just can't talk about it. Like Andrew Tate, he got censored for going this far. And I wish he could have gone that far. Leo understood it extremely well. Leo could have spoken about male and female polarity as well as Andrew Tate, if not better. But he didn't because he knew if he did, he'd get censored. He intentionally held that back. The whole world, even though millions of people know Leo Longevity and followed him, they have no idea what his real views on male and women, male and female polarity are, because you can't talk about it.
Do you want to give us some clues?
Without getting censored, without getting attacked. Well, I'll just, the softest thing I can say is that women really feel fulfilled being a housewife. If they're treated right and their man is a masculine man, the women are going to be the most fulfilled if they're a housewife.
So you're saying
they're
they
not
want
going
to be looked after?
They're not going to get the same level of fulfillment in any career whatsoever. It'll never happen. They'll keep chasing it, but they'll never get the fulfillment.
So I looked on your story earlier on about, like, it was the first time that one of your mothers has been schooling the child. Is that sort of like you're like ambitious about like finding, developing the child in a career, and they're just like sat back?
Say again. What's the question?
So like, on your Instagram today,
yeah,
you shared a story.
My daughter's doing a workbook,
yes.
And my baby mama too is tutoring her on writing.
Yes, yes. So like why is it so hard to get your baby's mums tutoring them?
Well, this is a problem with my baby mama too. Grew up in poverty, and education was not a priority. Personal development was not a priority. They don't think about next year or next month even. They're very resilient, Filipinos. They like I say, oh, you need to give the child this supplement and this and that, and their response is, hey, we grew up drinking water out of the stream and we didn't even have a roof on our head. Like, no, humans don't need all this stuff. It's just a bunch of marketing, a waste of time. Like, humans are perfectly fine just existing off whatever minimal things are necessary for survival. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. But like, I didn't work so hard to have my children treated like a third world country poverty situation. I'm putting them in the best school. I'm buying them the best food. I'm buying them supplements, but trying to get the moms to actually give them the supplements and realize like how valuable and important this is. They just don't think it's necessary. They think, oh, she's healthy enough. She's fine. You're overthinking it. Why are you stressing about this? Kind of like if I'm like, I need to work and save money for the future. They'll be like, why are you worried about the future? God will take care of it. They're very Catholic. They think in the end, God is going to take care of everything.
Sounds like they're
no
attached
responsibility
to the life that they lived. So because they've got they're happy to just leave the child at that level as well.
Yeah. So it just puts more responsibility on me. If I want the child to be raised like high society, like I was, I'm going to have to teach the moms how to live and think high society.
Yeah.
So I've got to tell the moms, remember to give her the supplements. Remember, don't let her drink Coca-Cola. Stop letting her eat French fries. Make sure she eats protein. You know, I got to constantly like teach the moms these things. I could have gone out and got moms that just knew all this stuff for themselves. But what I didn't want is a know-it-all, arrogant Western woman who thinks she knows better than me, and she doesn't, and then have to battle her at every step of the way. I thought by getting submissive third world country girl, then she just does everything I say. And since I'm a better decision maker, there'll be much better parenting. Just do what I say. I'll outline how to raise the child the best possible way. Just follow what I say. But I didn't realize that they were going to be so stubborn about it, because just another thing about women, my friends and I call it, Elon and like Connor and I call it imposter syndrome. Like, you know how a man will do whatever it takes to sleep with a woman? Like, oh, I love you. You're the only one. But anyways, I'm seeing other girls and I'm not going to be with you forever, but oh, I'll be with you forever. Oh yeah. And then have sex and then not leave. Right. Like, this is very common. Men do whatever it takes to get sex. Women do whatever it takes to get a relationship. They lie about who they are. They lie about their background. They lie about how many women they slept with. They lie about everything. They become what they think you want them to be. And then later, whatever their upbringing was, whatever their values were, they come out. And then the man's like, what the hell happened? Like, well, you fell in love with the imposter. Once she got in, once she locked you in, once she had a kid, once she's got your heart, then she says, oh, okay, I no longer have to be an imposter anymore. So it's the same. Men and women both do it. It's just that men are less aware that women do this, and women do it every time.
I know there's probably a few guys watching this now that would be interested in switching over to where you're sitting now. So like, how did you create that setup?
With the girls?
Yeah.
The most important thing is to tell them very early that you want to have multiple girlfriends. Because all of my girlfriends, actually, they've all been in relationships before where the man cheated on them and they left. How is it possible? And then the ex-boyfriends are like, what? Like, Pao is with a guy in a harem and she left me because I cheated on her? Like, how is this possible? And I asked the girls, like, why is this the first time you've ever considered this? Because you're the first guy who's ever been honest about it.
Totally. Total truth.
Oh, so that's so simple. Like I could talk about it for hours, but just the first simple trick is like the first date with the woman. I mean, almost like and even when I was in America, it's like the first date with the woman is to like almost try to convince her not to be with me. And then if she stays with me, like, okay, you signed up for this. This is what's going on.
Okay.
If I lie to her at all, if I lie to her at all, then eventually she's going to hold me back. For example, Nita Foxy still thinks that I didn't tell her enough of the truth in the beginning. And that's why she's the most resistant to the harem of all the girls. But I felt like I was pretty honest about it. But the problem is her brain was like picking the parts that she wanted to hear and not looking at the others. And it wasn't like in her face enough. And I waited. And the other mistake is I waited to have a threesome with her until like many months later. And normally, and when it works better, I have the threesome with the girl within the first few weeks. Has to be within the first few weeks. Try to throw it in later, it's always going to be awkward. So, you know, I mean, a lot of American Western men, they'll be with their wife for a long time and then they'll start swinging or something later when they're older, more mature. This happens a lot. So that's something a little bit different. But I'm saying in a harem situation where it's going to be just the man and multiple women, like the women have to go into it prepared for that because it's really hard to change their mind. Like a man can change their mind more than a woman can change their mind as far as expectations. A woman locks in. And also like a woman's expectations, they always increase. They almost never decrease. So I got to keep the expectations right here. And then they will always try to increase the expectations, and I've got to slam it back down here. And they'll always do it at your weakest moment. So you have to be really on guard. It's a lot of work. Like relationships are work, but you can either put the work in after you've already lost all your freedom and they've destroyed the relationship, or you can put the work in at the beginning. So you have an amazing relationship later and she's trained or empowered to hold this level of expectation.
I hear you. Thanks for sharing, Tony. Have you ever been in love?
I love all my girlfriends. Like this is also very confusing to a lot of people. There are some people who can only love one person, and there are other people who can love multiple people. Polyamory versus monogamy,
Yes.
polygamy, polyamory. So I'm polyamorous, and actually Pau, my girlfriend who's here, she's polyamorous. She could actually love two men at once. It's not the same, because I can love a woman 100%. I can love another one 100%. I can love another one 100%. She can love like me 70% and love another guy 30%. It's got to be like there's a primary, but there can also be like a secondary, but it does take away from me. So that's when, like, I'm fine being with a girl who's polyamorous, who loves me 100% and has some love for someone else. But if I have to share the love, like, I need 100% love from the woman. So if she's not able to love me 100% and someone else, then she can only love me, because I need 100%, because I'm going to give her 100%. And you could define love in so many different ways. But to me, there's so many different kinds. So like family love, passionate love, friendship and family love. But I have all of these with them. Like there's the passionate love, obviously romantic, passionate love, lustful love. There's the family love, because we're actually building a family. Another type of love is like just the length of time you've been with the person, right? So these are all very long-term relationships for me. Yeah. So I basically hit every element of love, and I hit it 100%.
Thank you for sharing, Tony. So we're coming to the end shortly. Can you give me and the world some key attributes that have made you so successful in life?
Multitasking was a superpower I had, but I know a lot of people will say that, if you're doing many things, you can't do them all good. But there's something, you can always focus on something major and then have other things going on in the background, sort of like assets. So I think of my time and everything around me as either an asset or a liability, the same way that Robert Kiyosaki might talk about money, or someone might think about money as like, you're either investing in a car, might be a liability because it's going to go down in value and in maintenance, or you're going to invest in a house, which is going to go up in value. So you invest in the house, these type of concepts. I do that with my time on everything. And then I don't really just like party for the sake of partying. I party to have some other benefit. Like I'll get the same pleasure from partying, but I'll do it in a productive way. For example, you and I, after this, you and I are going to go talk about productive things and self-improvement, and we're going to learn something from each other, but we're also going to be partying. So I just don't waste any time that's just a complete waste of time. I combine two things. It's like some element of self improvement along with whatever else I'm doing.
Yes. So you totally disregard the fact of mixing business and pleasure.
I try to make my entire life business and pleasure at the same time. So there's no time off each. Yeah.
What other like silly sayings like that did you grow up with hearing and going, that's not going to work. That's not for me.
Oh, interesting. There's probably a long list of them.
So many. Like eat all your food. Don't talk to strangers.
That gave me an eating disorder. Yeah.
Don't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
That's why I struggled to communicate an extrovert. I think I might have told you that.
This is why I want to do more reaction content, because pretty much every video I watch on the internet, I'm like, I get it. That's the mainstream matrix view, but like from outside the matrix, I see it completely different. And I think that perspective is really helpful to people.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Tony. Is there anything else you would like to finish up on before we get kicked out of here?
A day natural is a day wasted, and for every biological problem, there's a chemical solution.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate your time. And thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the podcast, please check out the links. Go over to my Instagram page. You can get a consultation call with me. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Hit the share button and come back again. Much love. Thank you for tuning in. Level up. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.